Why do psychologists? Do you? I try not to. I want you to think about the stereotypes around people who study psychology, not because stereotypes are particularly helpful, but to show that they don't come into existence for no reason at all, and to highlight why it is that people don't like being stereotyped. The majority of stereotypes are negative. Indeed, a stereotype could often be considered a negative archetype. This article points to this by showing someone who, for me at least, comes across as the very essence of psych student stereotypes, and the damage that she causes through this behaviour.
Australian psychologist banned after getting drunk and having sex with her patient.
Well, that doesn't sound too bad, right? I mean, she's hot, so he probably wanted it. And she was drunk, so her ethical standards shouldn't be expected to be pristine, right? Yeah, she has a duty of care to the patient and a professional standard to maintain, but surely this is red tape gone mad.
A Sydney psychologist has been banned from providing health services for 12 months after admitting to having sex and getting drunk with a patient who had an alcohol problem.
Oh. The seriousness of her conduct is exacerbated by her personal conduct of drinking to the point of intoxication with the patient A, who had been treated for alcohol abuse. Patient A was plainly vulnerable and coming out of a difficult time in his life. Yeah, forget what I said earlier. Bitch needs an Antifa handshake. You had one job, lady. At this juncture, it's worth pointing out this lady was the one who treated the bloke for his alcoholism. I don't know of the psychological method that involves getting alcoholics blotto. Maybe she's going for that "I'll never touch tequila again as long as I live" effect. But in that case, she really should have arranged for him to wake up next to something a little more objectionable. Seriously, one job. To help him not drink. If the closest you can come to that is making him drink, forget the 12-month ban. You shouldn't have this job at all.
Patient A said aspects of the relationship with Ledner re-triggered his alcoholism. "I now realize she had complete control over me," he said, detailing how he isolated himself from friends and family during the relationship and had thoughts of self-harm.
Oh.
For example, if we argued, she would bring up things I had confided to her during counselling.
You know what? Forget what I said earlier. This bitch should be in jail. Using information provided under the promise of professional confidentiality in order to manipulate and emotionally abuse a man into a broken state is beyond reprehensible. I don't often respond gutturally to perpetrators, believing in detached matter-of-fact justice, but this fills my stomach with rage. So, does this match your stereotype? I envisioned an intellectually slow blonde, ignorant of the world, yet convinced of both her intellect and her wisdom. She tells everybody that she is studying psych because she is fascinated with human behavior and she, really, really wants to help people. And she's not lying. She really is fascinated with human behavior in the ways that manipulating it can help people, namely her. She will bust out armchair psychiatry at the drop of a hat any time your point of view reflects negatively on her, but will herself be above analysis when gripped by foul moods. Do you think any of this applies to our errant rapist? Sorry, I meant errant therapist. Well, I don't know her, but I can give you 2 great big ticks on blonde and manipulating people. What about refusing to acknowledge the negativity of her own mental state?
Facing a full year out of work, Ledner expressed great remorse for her actions.
I bet she did.
And suggested she too was using alcohol as a coping mechanism.
That sounds like a big old tick to me. You might say she's admitting guilt by admitting she has an alcohol problem, but she's not really. She had improper contact with this guy for months before this incident in the form of thousands of text messages. Instead of admitting she was deliberately involved in doing the wrong thing, she blames external pressures and substances.
The tribunal was satisfied that, in light of Ledner's regretfulness, she would not repeat actions of misconduct in the future.
Fuck off! She's 31. If she's a registered psychologist, my understanding is that she needs to have done an undergraduate program, usually completed in at least 3 years of tertiary study, then a further 5 to 7 years of study to obtain her doctorate, and likely some form of supervised placement for a year or 2, meaning the total time she has been in sole practice can't be much more than 4 or 5 years, and she was in a relationship with this guy for a year. This constitutes 20% of her career so far, but you're convinced she'll be perfect going forward because of a few crocodile tears and a slap on the wrist? I understand the significance of actions that deprive people of the right to hold a given career. Like I said, this woman has done as many as 10 years dedicated study, and a lifetime ban would mean throwing all that in the bin. It is no small step, but we need to consider people's motivations towards the careers they hold. If a doctor got into ob-gyn so he could physically abuse women, he would have a lifetime ban the second it became clear. We should no more tolerate a woman in a medical field emotionally abusing men, and at the end of the day, the safety of innocents is more important than the careers of perpetrators. I dearly hope that if this young lady proves this justice wrong, the legal system will be slow to forget. If anybody from the MGTOW community is watching, I'm sure you're chomping at the bit with the familiarity of it all, and I've got to say I was pretty tempted to make this a MGTOW video. However, this is a very individual case, and as much as I hate to do this to you, I've got to call Narwhalt on this one. Not because this case doesn't show behavioral patterns that are more feminine than masculine, not because this case doesn't show manipulative behaviors common in many women, and not because it doesn't echo an all-too-common story of a man withdrawing from his life and into the exclusive domain of a romantic partner, but because this behavior is so appalling that I cannot conscience tarring a broad swathe of modern women with the accusation that they are even remotely like this. I wonder if feminists will do me the same courtesy next time a man commits rape.